entreaties of the strongholds of slavery of the I sing.
I encourage you, walk along with me as we discover the Freedom Trail in Boston. This is a 2.5 mile trail that leads you along historic Boston. It is incredible. It is historical. You'll see a unique collection of museums, churches, meeting houses, burying grounds, parks, and a ship. And it tells the story of the American Revolution. I actually got the opportunity to travel to Boston and do the trail myself many a times. I love the city of Boston. You can download a Freedom Trail brochure that will help you walk through it. With technology, there's actually an app that you can use on your phone that can help you also to go around the trail. I'd like to highlight just a few of the stops along the way. The first one is the Massachusetts State House. And the reason I like this, now it was completed in January 11th of 1798, and it's considered one of the most magnificent public buildings in the country. But I want to tell you about the dome of this thing. It was a wooden dome, and then they made it with copper, and then they covered it with 23 karat gold in 1874, and then painted it gray, the gold gray, during World War II to kind of protect it from any bombings that occurred during that time. It's a fascinating and beautiful place. I encourage you to go and check it out. There are several places where you can visit some very historical burying grounds. This one is called the Granary Burying Grounds. It was established in 1660, and it has some very famous people buried there. For example, Benjamin Franklin's parents is there. Paul Revere is buried there. John Hancock is buried there. You also have a few signers of the Declaration of Independence, such as Samuel Adams and Robert Payne. It's a great place to kind of study the history and to look at these tombs and these grave sites. Another location that interested me was the Boston Latin School. And I just find it a little bit funny. This is a very historical school, and 5 signers of the Declaration of Independence actually attended this school. This is Benjamin Franklin, Samuel Adams, John Hancock, Robert Payne, and William Hooper. But it's funny that of the 5, only 4 graduated. And the one, Benjamin Franklin, did not graduate, but it is him who has a statue at the school, the original location of the school. I found that quite interesting. A sad location to kind of go to is the Boston Massacre. This occurred in March 5th of 1770, and it really was just a conflict between very few people. And you have a Boston man insulting a British guard, and there gets to be a conflict, and then one hits one and the other hits another one, and then you have some guards come in. But by the end of this, you have 5 men lying dead. Now, Paul Revere kind of blew the story out of proportion, perhaps, but he called this a bloody massacre. And this event, this terrible event, was kind of used by the Americans as a rallying cry for the revolution. A home you'll get to visit is Paul Revere's house. Now, I grew up in learning in history all about Paul Revere and his ride and Longfellow's famous poem about him. So I really enjoyed seeing his house. And, you know, he bought it in 1770 when he was 35. He was built around 1680. Encourage you to stop by and check out that home. One of my also favorite places to go to is the Bunker Hill Monument. And the Battle of Bunker Hill was on June 17th of 1775, and it was the first major battle of the Revolutionary War. And here you have this battle of 3,000 redcoats against just a few Americans. And it was just like the redcoats charged the hill, and the Americans beat them back. And they charged the hill, and they beat them back. And they charged the hill, and they beat them back. But there's a lot of confusion and about what is the truth in this battle. One of the main websites for this trail, the Freedom Trail, says that, that there is confusion about the famous statement that is made here. The famous statement is that don't shoot till you see the white in their eyes. Well, a very famous historian who wrote about this topic recently in 2014, his name is Nathaniel Philbrick, and he states that no one said that. And in fact, that the battle actually didn't take place on Bunker Hill, but that it actually took place on Breed's Hill instead. So the name itself is even wrong. And there's so much to talk about that battle, but I just found it really fascinating. The last stop I want to tell you about, I love ships, and it's the U.S. Constitution. It's the oldest commissioned warship in America, and it's called the Old Ironsides, because during the War of 1812, it fought the British frigate, and as they're fighting, it seems like their cannonballs are bouncing off the ship, and it says, man, that ship must be made of iron, when in fact it wasn't. The ship was actually very well constructed, and actually Paul Revere had a part in that special construction. The ship has a long history of fighting different wars, of fighting pirates, and it still sails today. And so July 4th of every year, as we celebrate 4th of July, the ship goes and it sails. And it's actually still owned by the American Navy, and they have sailors on it. And it's a fascinating place. I want to encourage every one of you to put it on your list to visit Boston and to travel down the Freedom Trail. Every step is a historic step.
Author of liberty to